two really exciting presentations followed by a water rate presentation.
I didn't know you could read minds.
I am so sorry. I am so sorry. So we'll get right into this. I'm here tonight to give an update on our current water rate and potential options as to what we need to consider into the future with a new water rate. I just wanted to start with a little background for the public who's listening in. You guys have all heard this multiple times before, but what does our water rate actually support? And when we pay our water bill, specifically the water side, not the sewer, what does that money go towards? We the people of Auburn, we own a water filtration plant. That water filtration plant is staffed by 9 full-time employees. There's 3 remote facilities. We have our upper pump station, lower pump station, main treatment plant, and then a off-site reservoir. We treat approximately 1.5 billion gallons of water each year and supply close to 43,000 Cuyahoga County residents, and that includes every City of Auburn resident and business. We also have a full-staff water maintenance department responsible for approximately 100 miles of water mains, and they're charged with delivery of that treated water to 8,800 service connections within the City of Auburn. Probably our most visible department, or the department that most our residents deal with and customers deal with, is our water billing department. There's 2 full-time employees in that department, and they basically provide service to every single resident who's having an issue, changing residents, selling homes. It's a very busy department. I wanted to mention a couple of other, a bit more abstract, but really over the last 5 years, we've almost doubled our contribution to watershed inspection and the Wasco Lake Watershed Management Council. We account for the vast majority of the funding that supports 3 full-time professional staff members, not only tackling the daily watershed inspection duties, but also collaborating with multiple different agencies, not-for-profits throughout Cuyahoga County, the state of New York, with respect to our water quality in Wasco Lake's watershed. And last but not least, the general fund also relies significantly, we rely significantly on the support of the general fund, from Central Services, the City Manager's Office, Christina Selvik, the engineering department helping with new designs, our comptroller's office, who reviews the water rate presentation before such as and presents it to City Council, helps out with our budget each year. These services are reimbursed by the water fund annually by way of a transfer. So when I first started in this capacity as municipal utility director, we already had a water rate analysis underway. Really, we're looking at every rate. We're looking at our sewer rates, our town wholesale sewer rates, wholesale water rates, in-city sewer and water rates. And we had hired Raftelis. Raftelis is probably the premier water rate firm in the country. They do the vast majority, and I've seen multiple presentations looking at other communities and what they're doing with water rates, and 9 times out of 10 there's a gentleman or lady professional from Raftelis delivering that presentation. So we had a good firm, and we also needed some expertise from GHD, who kind of had a good relationship with the towns and the villages from working on some consolidation projects in the past. So it was at that time that City Council adopted a water rate that changed our retail rate from 205 to 262 per 100 cubic feet. And when we set that rate in 2016, the thought was a 5-year rate. We're going to set it, we're going to forget it. Year 1 and 2, we're going to make a little bit of money. Year 3, we're going to kind of break even. In year 4 and 5, we're going to lose a little bit of money, so that if you spread it across the 5 years, we break even. And that's, I think, one of the things that I've been kind of thinking about in my mind, because you talk with businesses about what we do, and we're really in the business to break even. We don't make money in this business. We work our best, we do the best we can to break even every year. So just thought that was kind of an interesting perspective. Not too many people think of it that way, I don't think. But anyways, so 2021, in the middle of COVID, a lot of craziness going on. Not a lot of FaceTime that we were able to do. So we had worked, we generally developed this water rate presentation to give to City Council this past spring. We knew that it was time because that model worked properly, but we didn't get to it. There was a lot going on with COVID, trying to get all of our budgets together. So we had to utilize $303,000 from our fund balance, which was healthy because we grew it to be healthy, in order to balance the budget this year. Next year, we'll have to do even more fund balance, and I'll show you in subsequent slides to be able to balance our budget. So with that all said, we've spent the last year or so kind of critiquing this presentation. So how's the rate developed quickly? You know, we trend and forecast bill flow. We look at past bill flow. We look at what the market's doing. Are we billing more? Are we billing less? Are we billing steady? And generally, we've been fairly steady across the last few years. Actually, COVID was a bit of an anomaly. Everybody at home, we actually billed more water in 1 year. So we took that number, we pulled it out because I don't think that it's necessarily accurate, and we looked at the 3 previous years building up to that. And then we said, okay, that's generally how much flow that we sell each year. We looked at the minimum bill and tried to incorporate that into the model. We're billing a minimum of 7 units to the minimum customers. Then we forecast our O&M, and this has been a tough one, and it probably will continue to be a tough one. All of the conferences that I've been attending this past week and some of the coordination meetings I've had with other utilities, it's just completely unknown. So we typically would hold our inflation around 1.5%, 2% in general. We increased it a little bit for a couple of years, and then we kind of normalized in year 3 is trying to project what those costs are going to be. We look at our existing debt, and then we looked at new debt from the CIP that Ms. Selvik helps coordinate each year. And we make sure that all of those debt service tables are in as expenses, and then we start to look at revenue and see what happens. So with no rate increase, the picture doesn't look very good. You know, we can get another year or so with no rate increases, but we will rapidly approach 0, and the longer we go without an increase to correct that factor, the harder it will be to get back up to a healthy fund balance. When I first started in 2016, we were around just under $1 million in our savings account. And we grew it to 2 with that idea of having $2 million in case something catastrophic happens. We can grab cash, we can pay for it, we can get things back up and running. When you're spending, you know, $6 million a year, $5 to $6 million a year, it's nice to have $2 million in your savings account, anywhere between 1 and 2. And that's generally what the comptroller has guided me in. So here's one scenario, which is similar to what we did in 2016, which is kind of a potentially set it and forget it, one-time rate increase. And this would take our retail rate to 335 100 cubic feet. And you can still see, even though the savings account comes back up and approaches $2 million over time, we'll still need to do a significant request for fund balance this year in order to start building that up. The other thing That this does not change is our service fee, so it's just purely the rate. When you get your water bill, depending on the size of your service, you'll get a service charge for the size of your meter service for water, a service charge for sewer, and then the rate times however many units of water you've used against the water rate and the sewer rate. So this is one idea. Set it and forget it again. Another one is to kind of take that top end number, 335 per 100 cubic feet, and do it incrementally, and do half this year, half next year. As you can see, the result of that, it does stabilize, but not as quickly as the one-time rate set. We still wind up with just around $1 million in the savings account, and it helps lessen the blow a little bit of a one-time change. Another idea, and this came after conversations with some local businesses. We sat down with Nucor. They are by far our largest water customer. And in 2016, I made a mistake. I was new. We were setting rates as all these numbers getting thrown around, and I'm just like, holy cow, here we go, we're doing this. And Nucor came and sat down with us about a week after we had set that rate, and they were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you guys never talked to us. And I looked at how much we billed them, and I said, oh my God, I can't believe we never talked to you either, you know? So that was one thing that Jeff and I talked about early on when we were doing this, was to re-engage with at least them. They are a significant customer in Auburn. So this takes some of their input into mind, and some of their recommendations into mind. Again, it doesn't get us to 2 million. It doesn't hold us at $1 million. It's kind of that in the middle of the road. It sets the quarterly bill. Our retail customers like me, you guys, the majority of Auburnians get billed quarterly. But then there's businesses and there's monthly customers who use more water, use more sewer. We bill them monthly. As a way to potentially lessen the blow of the one-time set it and forget it, incorporate that monthly charge over two-year cycle. So I'm sorry, that rate increase over 2 years instead of just over the one, set it and forget it. So this contemplates kind of a bit of a split. Our monthlies in year one would get half of the increase at $2.99 per 100 cubic feet, and the normal resident would just get that one time. Okay. So what does this mean to me? What does this mean to you? For our normal customers, and when I say normal, I mean residential customers, there are a lot of people living, one person in a household. They're not using a lot of water. We have a lot of minimum users within the city of Auburn, and they're typically the folks who are on a fixed income. They're not using a lot of water. They're retired. So what happens to our minimum customer? You can see that circled in green. They would be 7 units or less. They're currently paying around $68 a quarter. They would go to $72 for about a $20 a year increase to what they're paying today. And this is the full retail $335 rate. The average customer, like myself, family of 4, doing laundry every night, every other night, dishwasher every night, 12 units a quarter, you're going to see a $35 increase per year, $8 or $9 a quarter. So I don't know where you guys stand in all of this. If you're interested, I can talk about that, but obviously the more you use, the more dramatic that increase will be. So how do we compare? This was kind of interesting. We did this the last time around. We redid this in comparison to kind of the 3 most comparable communities around us that offer the same services we do: Geneva, Oswego, and Watertown. Auburn's in blue, and you can see that even after we were to do a retail increase to $330 or so, we're still very competitive. We're still the cheapest around. Until you start to creep up, you can see Oswego and Auburn kind of normalize or get very close at the larger, at the 40 units. But for the normal customer, we're very inexpensive. The other thing, the state comptroller's office put out a document. City manager got his hands on it. He sent it to me. It's very hard to read here, but the national average, it says for comparable water rates, monthly bill on the national average is $38.67. After a new water rate increase, we're $21, $22 a month. The state average, and this is water, is $50. We're $51.43 for water and sewer per month. So we're providing very good quality water sewer services for a very good price. So my recommendation is maybe to take that blended approach. I think financially it would be the best to just go for the set it and forget it again, but after listening to some of our larger customers kind of growing into that, so it's not a huge hit. You know, just to put it into perspective, for Nucor, this year with a rate increase, they'll see a $58,000 increase in their bill in a year. If we were to do it one time, it's $120,000. So that's a real conversation. That's a conversation worth having, because that's a lot of money. So that's where them requesting that we do it over the kind of a phased approach, and being fair with all of our monthly customers who use traditionally a little bit more water than our residents in that stepped approach. I'd recommend it. So that's my presentation. Any questions?
Good, Joe. Go ahead,
Go
Council.
ahead, Mayor, if you have a question.
Seth, you mentioned the steel mill is a large consumer of water. Does that all go through our sewer system too, or is a lot of that lost in production or whatever?
So that's the hard part with Nucor specifically, is 95% of their bill is water. All of their water goes to evaporation, so we have a huge service that provides water into their cooling towers, into their operations, and then we have a separate water and a sewer service that goes to just their normal, you know,
Basic domestic use.
bathrooms. Yeah. So their sewer bill and water bill on that service are no bigger than you know, any normal business.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is, for production, they use a considerable amount of water. Is a lot of that recovered? Is it lost to the atmosphere?
I think the majority of that's lost to the atmosphere.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that goes towards cooling. But, you know, we've worked really closely with them over the last few years as well, and we've provided major infrastructure improvements on York Street, North Street, Chase Street, to ensure that we're providing them with the highest quality and basic quantity of water that we can possibly give them. And they haven't had a shutdown because of us since that project has gone into play. Before, if we ever had a main break on our State Street feed, when we have to shut that feed off to repair it, the feed on North Street wasn't big enough to supply them with enough water. They'd start to cavitate and they'd go into a shutdown, which, if you want to start adding up numbers, is probably double what, you know, one shutdown, unanticipated shutdown, is hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Sure.
So.
Seth, last question, Councilor. I've always been told that a hospital is a large consumer of water. Where do they rank?
They're not they are large, but again, they're taking in water and then using the sewer as well. So they're not as directly impacted because a lot of that rate increase gets drowned out with the sewer rate as well. We bill them monthly. They would go up next year, or once this resolution is passed, or if it is passed, they'd go up to about $8,800 a year more than what they're paying now. At the full rate, it'd be about $15,000 more a year. So I say they're not, but that's a lot of money, you know, that's a lot of money. Yeah.
Council Cuddy, please.
Mr. Jensen, how many, I guess, how many people are taking advantage of the metering, where the online metering, because that is something that we offer as a city to monitor their own water usage. Is that, do you know how many people are taking advantage of that?
I'd have to get back to you on that. We're incrementally signing people up.
Okay.
I wish there was a way that we could almost force that, because I'll tell you, one reason is it becomes a great communication tool for us with the public. We don't have a great communication tool with them right now. Everything is snail mail, and that's very expensive. When you sign on to the customer portal, you have internet, you have cell phone, everything, all these annual water quality reports, you know, they could all just get blasted out. Lead service lines or shutdowns. You could bundle people into groups where if Mr. Gayback was working on a water main break, he could draw a circle with his finger on the map, hit send, and send out emergency notifications to those people, but we just don't have their contacts yet, so.
I mean, it's a resource that I think if more people took advantage, or if we tried to really push to have people signed up, we already offer it. It's like it's built into our, you know, our service. If we could really push people, especially now, I think it would be a real benefit for the consumer and the city. So, but yeah, I just, I think that would also help people be mindful of usage.
Right, yeah.
I mean, we recently got an email or a phone call about some water billing, and it's like, oh boy, I wonder if they had, you know, if they knew, if they they could see their usage on a minute by minute, real-time basis, so.
Right, and that's certainly, anytime we're working through that process with a customer, we're letting them know that that program's available and it exists. Whether they actually sign up or not. A lot of landlords have, because it's a good way for them to understand what's going on in their homes. As far as people just turning the spigots on and walking away, or.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Would the surrounding towns be affected at all?
Yes, so we have water agreements in place with some of the surrounding towns, and the retail rate is what their rate's built off from. And depending on their agreement, they're either 15% more than retail. You can see here, Town of Troop and Senate, 15% more than retail. Town of Aurelius and Keuka County Water and Sewer Authority are 5% more than retail. So that's a really good question, and I forgot to mention that on this Bring It Home slide.
I mean, not to get critical of the surrounding towns, I mean, we're in business to sell water and make money, aren't we?
No.
We're in business to sell water and break even.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Then why don't we sell water and break even?
Why do we sell water?
Why don't we sell water to break even? Why should the residents of Auburn, who are in the business of selling water, why don't we sell it to break even for the residents of Auburn
That's what we're doing.
with an increase to Auburn?
And to the towns. Theirs goes up incrementally with our retail rate. They're 15% more than our rate, our agreements. So right now, they're paying 15% more than $2.62, $3 per CCF. When we increase the rate, their rate goes up incrementally with ours at that, so their rate goes up.
Thank you.
It's actually one of the cleanest ways to arrive at a wholesale rate to our customers outside. Is just a very simple 5 or 15% increase to the retail rate. It's not less. And the sewer, with the sewer, it's less. But there's a lot of different factors that go into that. With water, you can actually do return on investment. So that, I guess to a certain extent, you are making some money. With sewer, you cannot do return on investment. So that's where the 5 and 15% come into play.
All set, Council?
All set, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Actually, Councilor Castro's point is a good segue into what I wanted to talk about first. You mentioned 2016, the rate study, coming up with the methodology. Talk a little bit about what the billing process, the rate process was like specifically for the towns prior to 2016. There were 20-year agreements in place with some of the towns.
Yeah, and there still are. So it's difficult in this forum when we're talking about water, because those agreements never changed. The water agreements are still the same as they were then. We spent the majority of our time focused on the sewer agreements. And in the town of Aurelius, they were under some sort of a court order where they were paying next to nothing per 100 cubic feet of sewer services. Their water services, that was different. Their water rate, towns have always paid in accordance with their agreements. Where on the sewer side, they were not always paying in accordance with their agreements. And in fact, they were paying less than other towns were paying with their agreements.
Right, and in a lot of ways, the consumers in Auburn were subsidizing those lower rates.
Yeah, on the sewer side,
On the sewer side.
absolutely.
But I guess my point is, we've worked very hard to make it not only equitable, but I guess in what you're saying, it's in our favor in a little bit, right?
On the water side.
On the water side.
Yeah.
So we have worked to come up with a methodology that works, that isn't just, we're not just picking numbers out of a hat. We can show on paper why we're charging what we're charging so that we can break even, but maintain the infrastructure, improve the infrastructure that's delivering these services.
Right.
That wasn't always the case. So it's a valid concern, but I think
Sure.
it's something that we've really paid close attention to,
Yeah.
and we should continue to, for sure. You mentioned Nucor, them being the largest consumer of water. The water rate doesn't simply just pay for water. We take advantage of the fact that we turn on our spigot and water comes out. It's the infrastructure that delivers that water. And, one of the things that we are always working on is economic development, attracting new businesses, keeping existing businesses. And, this allowed us as a municipality to address serious concerns that one of our largest employers had with their water service, because there were times when there was disruption in the water service.
Right.
And it is to the tune of tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars every time that happens. And this was an economic development investment through water rates. Many of our major employers in the city of Auburn, 3 of whom are plastics manufacturers, rely on water. So I think that point just needs to be highlighted, that this is an economic development tool, and it's important. You showed a graph with the rates for surrounding municipalities. I know back in 2016, when we discussed the methodology, what the increase was going to be, we used that. There was also a printout that went out, and it showed, like, you know, 12 units of water equals how many bottles of water that you buy in a gas station. You know, and I always tell the story. The last time this happened, I was at work and somebody made a comment to me, "Oh, you're raising the water rates," as they're buying a bottle of water using their credit card
Yeah.
out of a vending machine for $1.50. And it's, how much water does that $1.50 get you out of the tap? And I just think that's an important graphic, if we could revive that
Yeah,
as we continue
absolutely.
this conversation. And I think it's a good way to communicate to people exactly what they're getting.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to be Captain Obvious, maybe. But so to do the blended, the gradual increase, obviously that's a difference of 36 cents the first year and the second year of increase. So that's money that we otherwise would be getting if we just went all in and, you know, let it go. But I think that really shows the responsibility we feel to the businesses and, you know, the families that have to pay this, and understand that doing it all at once, taking a hit like that, is going to be major. So I really appreciate that you thought that through and recommended that, because I think that's the right thing to do.
Thank you.
And one more question. You mentioned the minimum units. It's
What?
set, the minimum units is set at 7.
Yes.
You are not proposing that change?
No, I mean, that's something we could look at, and the hard part with that, and I did look at it, was if you set the minimum at 6, you're going backwards for some of those, but they're gonna pay less than they're paying now.
And if I remember correctly, the last time we did this, or shortly thereafter, due to constituent feedback, we did lower
You're
the
right.
minimum units.
Yeah, the minimum in 2015 was 10.
Yeah, and we lowered it to 7
And
as
we
part of
lowered-
that last rate increase.
Yeah, because that was like the closest blend. This rate increase is not as significant as the rate increase that we experienced in 2016. One of the biggest things that we changed in 2016 was we increased, or we added a sewer and a water service fee. And we could have looked at increasing that, but it's nice to keep it the same in water and sewer. And I was just focused on water because our sewer, we're fairly strong at the moment there with our current rate. But our rate consultant really highly recommended that be as much as it possibly can be. But when we did that, that took our minimum customers and really added a lot, because they were paying a $2
Right.
Meter fee, and that went to like a $24 fee. But that's kind of set revenue that you can rely on, like a delivery charge that you see from NICEAG. It's a delivery charge.
And that's a good segue to the last comment I wanted to make. You know, we're talking about a rate increase. Nobody wants anything to go up, including us. We're going to pay it too. You know, but the reality is we're having a very public conversation. We're explaining the methodology behind it. We're showing that we're breaking even while we're investing in the infrastructure of the city.
Mm-hmm.
We're providing a service, a utility. NICEAG provides a utility, Verizon provides a utility, Spectrum provides a utility. They don't have this conversation. They simply send you a bill in the mail with the increase, and there's no discussion. I think it's important that we're doing this. I'm glad we're doing this, because we can justify what we're doing. I know that you're not happy about being up there.
I don't like doing this.
I know you don't, but it's a necessary part of your job. And,
Yeah, of course.
And I appreciate you explaining it in the way that you're explaining it, so that we can explain it to the people of Auburn.
Right. As you were talking, sorry. You know, just quick, some of the things that the last rate supported was the lagoon rehab at the water filtration plant. We put in HAB system, and we're continuing to pay a lot more on chemical for that each year. We built a storage maintenance garage at the water filtration plant. We've done some significant electrical upgrades and an arc flash study for employee protection. We've done major improvements at the Logan Street maintenance garage, multiple vehicles, including partial of a Vector, skid steer, some dump trucks, the North Street water main, North Division Street water main, Chase Street water main, Auburn Ave water main, Parker Street water main, Dunning Ave water main, Swift Street, Pulsifer Drive water mains, hundreds of lead service line replacements, zebra mussel control system replacement, hundreds of valves and hydrants citywide, hundreds of water main repairs by our own crews, formation of the Owasco Lake Watershed Management Council, and basically doubling our contribution to, towards high-quality personnel in that division, the Owasco Flats land acquisition, and I kind of circled back to the HABS treatment facilities, but just the operation and the chemicals associated with that. So that's what we've done in 5 years with the last rate, plus that's the highlight reel. So.
You were prepared.
Well, I just started typing. And,
Yeah, no,
and I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
look at what and these are the staff that I outlined at the beginning. These are the people that are making it happen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot we know, and again, as Councilor Giantino said, it's just important for the public to know how much it takes to get a glass of water from their tap. I mean, it's just an immense amount. So, and thank you to you for making sure it's done right.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Jensen, I started coming to city council meetings in 1995 when I was promoted to chief. And the conversations were basically the same as they are tonight, but we're going in the right direction. It hurts. If you go to dinner tonight, you're gonna pay more than you did 3 years ago. You're gonna fill your car up tonight. It was probably $3 cheaper than it was this morning, or more expensive than it was this morning,
I
but
know.
it's a quality of life issue, in my mind. And I don't like spending money any more than anyone else. But when I need water, I want water. I want the best water available. And we have to bite the bullet at different times.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Councilor Genatino, you made a good point. You go anywhere, everybody's walking around with a bottle of water. We have the best water in the state, but if they had a beer or something, I could be swayed on that, but I'm just going.
No water, no beer.
That's right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
There's our slogan.
He's a professional engineer, ladies and gentlemen.
That's the AWWA like coin phrase, the American Water Works Association. They have these, technical conferences, and then afterwards they have these no water, no beer conventions where you have a little fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.